Okay, welcome. Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. We'll get started right away. I know I see some people are still popping in from the waiting room, but I want to be mindful of your time and get right started. So welcome today to our professional development presentation brought to you today by Solved Consulting and Tail Academy. My name is Maura Musso. I'm happy to be here with you today. This session is being recorded. So if you prefer not to be part of the recording, you feel free to keep your camera off. If you don't mind being part of our recording, I am happy to have your camera on and see your happy and smiling faces this Monday afternoon. My name is Maura Musso. I am an instructional consultant with Solved Consulting. I'm also a professor of early childhood and childhood education at SUNY New Paltz and a certified New York State elementary teacher with certification from grades pre-K to 6, and a New York State certified literacy specialist with certifications from pre-K through 12th grade. And I've had experience throughout my career teaching lots of different learners from pre-K 2-year-olds all the way up through adults. And I'm very excited to be spending this hour here with you today. So just some norms for our time together today. I'm jumping in right here on this one, start and end on time. We started right in at 2:30 and we'll go rolling right through. And my intention is to stop us around 3:25. Because at the end of our time together, I have a feedback form that I would like you to spend some time just filling out. It's really quick. It doesn't even take 5 minutes, but I promise to stop about 5 minutes early so that you have time built into this hour you're spending with me today. So just a couple of other things up here for you to think about and how you can best use this time together today. First is to take an inquiry stance. This is all about you. What I'm presenting here to you today is all about things that you could use in your classroom, things that can help you with your students. So think about what you're looking for and what you want to be able to take out of it. And then to just be here now with those thoughts. So thinking about we're talking about assessments, thinking about the assessments you use in your classroom with your students. Think about students that maybe you're concerned about, you're wondering how you can assess them better. So be here and be focused really on your own profession, your own teaching. So our course today, we are going to be looking at the assessment cycle. And so as we jump into this, I'd just love to know who's out there. So if you could take a moment and in the chat, just type in your name and either the content area and or the grade level that you're teaching, just so we know who we're working with. So I've seen lots of people jumping in already. Namaste, the great way to start. Good afternoon. We have some middle school arts. Welcome, Chris, U.S. history. Hannah, 6th, 7th grade. Good afternoon, Michelle, 5th grade, pre-K, ELA, science and health, high school ELA, grade 6 to 8. We're all over the place here. This is awesome. We have a great range of grade levels, of content areas. Oh, music coming in, some special ed. Awesome. Great. We're coming in from all over, different places, different grade levels, different content areas. This will be wonderful when we wrap up at the end with our breakout rooms, where you'll be sharing some of your assessment ideas, some of your thoughts, some of the things that you've learned with us today with your colleagues. So it's great to see this range of experiences, backgrounds, content areas, grades all being brought together today. So welcome everyone. And as I said, I'm so happy to be here with you. on this beautiful Monday afternoon. So we are going to be using a note catcher today. And I'll put this link in the chat for you. This is just a document that I put together. We'll primarily be using it later on in our breakout rooms, but has some information on there for you.
You got it?
To start with. Yeah. Somebody have a question?
Okay.
Okay. So this, the link to it is in the chat for you. It's going to force you to make a copy of it. So it'll pop up on your screen and say, make a copy. This will be just so that we're not all writing over each other. So make a copy of that, and you can have that to really catch anything that stands out to you today, any particular notes you want to take for yourself. And as I said, this also has our activity that we're going to be doing towards the end of our time together, the chart that we'll be using for that. So if you can take a moment and just open that up and have that for you, that would be great. So today we have some different intentions for our work together. We are going to start by considering different and portable assessment practices that are out there and available to us. Then we're going to look at how we can evaluate strategies and tools to support or enhance the assessment cycle. And the assessment cycle will be our theme that we'll be going through for the entire class today. And then we're going to look at nurturing student ownership and growth mindset by exploring some specific student-centered strategies in the assessment cycle. So there's a lot that we'll be working on today, a lot of information that I'll be giving you in a short amount of time. So really, again, I want you to just focus on what catches your attention. Often when we come into these with our own students in mind, with our own teaching experience in mind, things just jump out to us like, yes, that's what I needed to hear. Yes, that's what I want to look into. So kind of just set yourself in a mindset of whatever catches your attention is going to be what you're going to grab, because I am aware I'm going to throw a lot of information at you in a short period of time. So let's just start with, activating our prior knowledge like we do in any good lesson. So in thinking about assessments, think about what this means to you. When you hear this word, what do you see in your mind's eye? What words or phrases come to mind? What feelings do you have? And if you want to just jump off of mute and tell me what you're thinking about what assessment means to you, or you can jump into the chat and just put what assessment means to you, what words or phrases come to mind. We can start our discussion this way.
Assessment gets me all kind of raveled at times.
To me, assessment means testing.
And then I have to grade it. And then I have to see why they didn't get it. And then
Assessment means added stress for students and teachers.
Did they get what I taught? And did they learn it?
Instructor, you're muted.
I'm muted. Thank you. So today I would like to look away from that idea of assessment just being stress, and think about really how it is a tool for both us and for our students. So some great things. Let's just run through a couple of things that are coming up in the chat here. Finding out what students can and can't do. Assessment means seeing what students know, analyzing data, evaluating student comprehension. So many great things, so many great ideas, and so much participation. Thank you. So here's just some words that pop up when we think about assessment, and even these are some that we saw pop up in our chat today, and things that have popped up, throughout education in terms of looking at assessment. And so we're going to build on this idea today. So our focus today is going to be the assessment cycle. And our assessment cycle really is broken down into 3 components. We have teacher guidance and feedback. Then we have student-centered learning and engagement. And then we have authentic assessment. So we're going to break these down and look at each of these individually today as we work through our time together. So let's jump in with teacher guidance and feedback. So in the area of teacher guidance and feedback, we can look at some feedback strategies for the classroom. So with our younger children, we can be looking at picture and symbol cues. Our young students who may not be readers can really benefit from visual cues that let them know if they're on the right track and what they need to continue to work on. So different emojis of, a very happy face or just a straight line smile, so that they could tell, yes, this is great, we're doing great jobs. Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs to the side is a big one. This, yes, you're doing great with that. They really get it, not so much, or yeah, meh. So giving that kind of feedback. Written feedback. Written feedback has always been an effective way to give students the opportunity to go back, to correct their errors, to correct their imperfections, their misconceptions, and in their work, and be able to get back to the specific things we want them to be successful on. Highlighting, going through and on a rubric, marking off specific criteria where a student may have been especially successful, and then maybe in another color criteria where they may be struggling. Highlighting areas can be a quick way, if you have a printed rubric, to give feedback for our students, and then our students can use that information to build on. Our next bullet here is post-it comments. Using a post-it note to give students feedback during independent work time. This can help them, provide them with written reminders about the verbal feedback they've received. So if you're talking with them about something in a conference and you just jot down some notes on a post-it and leave that with them, that's something they can circle back to later and be like, oh, right, yes, I spoke with my teacher about that, and I can build on that. This type of feedback on post-it comments is also very helpful because the students have it later. They can continue to take action on that piece of feedback even after, in days, hours, weeks after that, when the class period's over. Clipboard notes. Clipboard notes for verbal feedback when you are circulating as a teacher and connecting with your students. You can jot down notes that you've made to them, feedback that you've given them about areas of strength, about areas that you're concerned with. And then you can circle back to that information for yourself when you are conferencing with the students. So and you can say to them, so I noticed last time I gave you some feedback about concluding sentences in your writing. How has that been coming along? Let's take a look at how you've been doing that. Let's see if you were able to take any action on those. So this idea of keeping the clipboard notes to both yourself and giving them to your students helps you as a teacher to build upon that as well. And then finally, we have the 3-minute conference. In the 3-minute conference, we can let students know that they are almost there, but that you want to build on to where they are, help them to understand where they are in their learning. So in a 3-minute conference, you have the opportunity to give students oral feedback. And for some students, this oral feedback is super beneficial, where they can see, oh, this is where I need to go next to improve myself. So all of these actionable feedback strategies are things both for you to be able to communicate to your student what their strengths are and what their areas that they need to focus on are. So both you and the student know this is where you are. And then these also enable the student to be able to assess themselves and say, okay, this is where I'm building, this is what I'm working on. Instead of just a grade. I did this, I received this grade, I got an 8 out of 10, I got an A, I got 75. Excuse me. Whatever that grade is, which they just take and they say, okay, and move on. Actionable feedback strategies gives them things, okay, well, this is where I am. This is what I can do to take my next step to improve myself. And so it takes a little bit of that stress out of the idea of assessment, because it is working with the students to improve themselves. In the terms of providing effective feedback, I have a little video I'd like to show you on how this might work. If you can just give me a thumbs up in the chat if this audio is working right for you. I've been having a little bit of trouble with it today. So I'm going to play this. Just let me know if you're able to hear this video. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Leah Alcala. I teach 8th grade math, and this is my warm-up routine that I do with my students almost every day. I call it my favorite no. Okay. Good morning, you guys. Your warm-up is on the board. I'm going to hand out your index cards. I put a warm-up problem on the board, hand out index cards to all the kids, have them write their answer. I collect it, and then I sort it, and I say yes, no, yes, no. And I look for my favorite wrong answer or my favorite no, and we analyze that. 4 minutes to work on it. Everyone makes mistakes. We're going to see your mistakes, you're going to see my mistakes. But a mistake is your opportunity to share with me how much you understand. And if I don't know that you don't know something, I need to teach you before the test. The test is too late. And this is a great spot for me to teach you. Make sure your name is on your card. Put your pencil in your pencil slot and pass your cards to the center. I started my warm-up routine to replace clickers that a lot of classes are buying. So that was a clicker for each student. You ask a question, they lock in an answer. And then you look at your computer screen and you know what percentage of your students understand the problem. Well, we didn't have the money for that, so instead, okay, here we go. I thought, well, what if I gave everyone index cards, collected them real quick with their answers already written on it, and then I can just sort them as quick as possible and find out what percentage of my kids know the answer. No, yes. Costs 40 cents instead of $15,000. Yes, so we have quite a few yeses and some very interesting no's. 1, 2, 3, 4. I then took that a step further, something I couldn't do with clickers. 7. Look at the ones who are getting it wrong. How far are they from getting it right? And showing that work to the other kids. Okay, my favorite no. Someone wrote this. I say it's my favorite no because I want the kids to first of all recognize what they're about to see is wrong. And I want them to recognize that there's something good in the problem. Like there's a mistake, but it's my favorite no because it showed some good math. So that's the wrong answer. But they did some things that I love. What in that problem am I happy to see? We always talk about what's right first, so that if it's any student's work, they are like, oh, I did do that right.
So this is a very interesting way of providing feedback to a student. First of all, as she said, it's very simple, very inexpensive. But then it takes the students to a place where they can see what is good about something that they did wrong, so that they can see, okay, here's where, instead of just being like a no, nope, it's wrong, X, it's out. They can say, okay, but here's where I did right. And so students can build upon that. It also, kind of builds a community of working together to grow, where, they're seeing their nose ends up on this screen together. And they're able to build off of that. So it's a very interesting way of providing feedback and a nice tool for the classroom. So moving on from feedback into student-centered learning and engagement, which we'll see actually carries feedback forward with it. So one of the big things with our assessment is really bringing our students into it, right? Again, we don't want it to be just that stress. We want our students to be engaged in their own improvements, in their own learning. How can they do that if all we're doing is giving them back a letter or a number and just like, here it is, here, this is what you are, you equate to this score on something. And so to get them engaged in their learning, to get them engaged in building upon where they are, we will be bringing some feedback into that. But let's take a moment to watch another video here about blended learning. So this is based off Washington, D.C. high school. They decided to bring in blended learning model instead of the teacher-directed model.
Hi, Angel. How are you? Good. Nice job, Mr. 6.10.
So one of the toughest challenges students face when they walk into classrooms is they feel tense. They're worried about being put on the spot, especially if they're behind or don't understand the skill. When they come into our classrooms, they know they're picking up where they left off. We're seeing students' anxiety levels drop and their commitment and desire to master content increase.
So I want to shout out Nathaniel and Will. They came on their own time. They got some videos going and they are ahead of pace.
Eastern High School is located in the Capitol Hill neighborhood of Washington, D.C. Being 100% free and reduced lunch, our students come to us with varied levels of academic performance.
When I came to Eastern, I was sort of shocked with how broad the variety of learning levels was. We have students who have experienced a ton of trauma, who are behind on certain skill sets, are ahead in certain skill sets, have different subsets of experience when they go home. I quickly found out that my traditional model of teaching was not actually effective. So at that time, I realized I needed to make a shift, and I wanted to start by getting rid of the lecture at the beginning of my class. I'm gonna get started today with revision, so Santana and Jamie, just see me in the back real quick. The instructional model that I started implementing, there are 3 components: blended learning, self-paced structure, and mastery-based grading. What you would see today is really a controlled chaos environment. You have some students starting a new lesson, watching an instructional video, taking their guided notes. You have other kids working on actual lesson assignments, collaborating on whiteboards, really problem solving. And then you'll see other students working on exit tickets to achieve mastery.
I like Mr. Furr's class because it teaches you independence. For every lesson, we start off with a video, and then during the video, we have to take notes. Mr. Furr, he does the videos himself. You'll hear his voice every time you watch a video.
In today's lesson, we're going to focus on finding our local maxes and mins.
I love it actually. You get to pause it, stop, and then go back and be able to rewatch the lesson over again until I fully understand and grasp the strategies and formulas.
And once they're done watching that instructional video, they transition to some type of assignment or activity.
That's it for A, right? Mm-hmm. And then we already found the derivative. And now say find the rate of change of the weight of the oil. Everyone learns different. So you may be on lesson 5, someone may be on 3. It all depends on how you work. It's better than in a regular class where everybody has to stay on the same thing. The students help each other. So if you ahead, you might can help someone that's behind. Oh, okay, so after you get 9 over 4, you gotta divide the whole thing by 4. Okay, all right. After that, there's an exit ticket.
So an exit ticket is like a mini quiz. It's just a couple questions at the end of the lesson that really succinctly measure the student's ability to execute the activities they learned. So when a student has mastered an exit ticket, they move forward. When they don't, they have a reteach. You're assuming that your Y is 0. And then they try a new exit ticket until they've achieved mastery.
Showtime. Did you get your exit ticket right? Well, your derivative is spot on.
So because I am not delivering a lecture, I'm now free to work with students for the entirety of the class period.
X equals 4.
Yes. Woo.
Real quick, just remind me, what do you have to argue? Who is more responsible for perpetuating the Cold War? I'm gonna meet with a few people on topic sentences first.
The video instruction makes me feel like I've been able to clone myself. Instead of needing to explain a concept and then re-explain the concept and then say it again, I'm giving the instruction on the video, which frees me up to work one-on-one or in small groups.
Does your topic sentence directly answer the essay question? No, it doesn't.
I like it a lot. I never feel like I'm being rushed or feel like, oh, I already know this. Like, why am I going over this again? I always feel like I'm being challenged.
I have a really accurate pulse check of where my students are. So-and-so is on 6.9 and they're about halfway through because I haven't seen an exit ticket yet, whereas another student has advanced to 6.10 and I can even lean on that student to explain something to their peers.
Okay, so you're only gonna use 2 quote explication charts. Your 2 strongest ones.
I think it helps with your time management. A couple days ago, I had to stay after school to get my work done because I was slacking a little bit. Like when you miss a class, you can watch the video at home to catch up.
Part of the reason this format works so well is we have a lower than average in-seat attendance rate. In a traditional format, once the teacher delivers that lesson, they're moving on to the next lesson the next day, and they don't get an opportunity to go back over it.
I've had students who, sadly, in a traditional classroom, they simply would have failed the quarter due to their number of absences for legitimate reasons and often sometimes really heartbreaking reasons. With this way of teaching, that student can come really with more of a fighting chance and ultimately pass a quarter.
In our model, if a student is experiencing distress and needs emotional support, it doesn't disrupt the larger classroom environment. I'm able to pivot and work with that student, discuss what's going on, while the other students are able to access the content and flourish.
You have to do 10, then put parentheses in the calculator too.
I did.
Oh, you got it. It's supposed.
So this model is very unique, but it does bring our students to individual assessments. The teachers are using day-to-day assessment to inform their instruction, and this self-paced way of moving keeps the students on working out where they are, the level that they are at, and so that if they need reteach, they need remediation, they need enrichment and challenge, it is all provided for them. And again, it has assessment built into it, but not in a stressful way that we would be thinking about when we normally think about assessments. Thoughts on how something like that might work in your classroom? If you want to jump off of mute and talk about it, or just put it in the chat. Anyone doing anything like that in their classrooms now?
Thank you. Hi. I know I work with the smaller ones, but with ours, we mostly do like writing assessments where we have some that's more a little more advanced. So we have them separated in small groups. So some will do fine motor skills, some will do gross motor skills, others will try to write their alphabets, others will do vocabulary words. So we try to do the test where we see where they have growth and where we need to work on from there.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great way of having this this approach blended to the younger students. And that works out really, really, really well. That's awesome. In the chat, I'm seeing some comments. This method will work amazingly when there is more than one teacher. Yeah, I would see that. Yeah, that would be great if you had dedicated computers. Yes. What programs do you use? There's lots of different programs out there, Donna, for to record yourself. You know, you can use some, you can just use some YouTube videos that you can make. There's other ones that are out there that enable you to bring in some of the background graphics and things that you want to plug in. There are a bunch that are available for free, and then other districts buy into things. So you could ask around and see if there's anything that your district currently is using. Trying to make scholars more self-sufficient to become better high school students. Yes, that's awesome. Yeah, that's great. All right, so let's, a couple more things coming on. Informal low stakes assessment, yes, to guide our daily practice. That's really what it can be about, right? That's taking the stress out of assessment. Yeah, and that's what it's about.
Hi, Angel. How are you? Good.
So building off of this idea of student-centered learning and engagement, there are 5 different practices to this that really can build upon this and make this flourish in our classroom. So the first is looking at if what we're offering is growth oriented. So that you are looking, your intention is constructive. Your intention is focused on improvement and not criticism. So by starting your purpose for giving feedback in such a way that makes it clear that, hey, I'm here to help you learn. I'm here to tell you what you could be building on here, and not, you know, just that red pen that we all remember of just big X, nope, you're wrong, move on. So that idea of being growth oriented. The next is that our feedback is real. Real feedback is information rich. It gives the learner details about what they should either be starting to do now, what they should continue doing that they're doing right, and what they should change. So it's not, a real feedback is not simply corrective feedback. It's giving learners the information about the task, about the process, and maybe about their self-regulation of this. So it's much more than this one's right, that's one's wrong. And that's very important to, again, to taking the stress out of assessment. The next of the 5 components is that it's empathetic. It's easy to reduce our feedback to you directives. You need to do this, you need to do that. But if what we're saying to our learner also contains some I messages, then that is bringing in that, you know, that your understanding of who you're talking to. Empathetic feedback is combining critique, which we have to do as teachers, right? We can't just be all sunshine and rainbow. It's like, oh, yay, this is wonderful, because they're not going to progress that way. So we have the critique coming in, but it's balanced with care. And it brings together this quest for mutual understanding. You know, and so affirming things, stating about what you're unclear about. Like, I'm unclear about this. not you did a bad job presenting this. And so those two things, again, are very opposite. And presenting it in an empathetic way takes some of the stress away. The next component is asked for. Effective feedback is a dialogue. It simply just giving a student a lot of feedback that they haven't asked for isn't going to foster relationship building, isn't going to foster a sense of community within our classroom where they're coming to us for support. So after providing some micro feedback, we could inquire of our students, do you want some more comments, do you want some more guidance as to where to go here? What questions do you have about what I've said? Is there anything you're confused about here? So in asked for feedback, the speaker, the teacher, encourages the receiver, the students, to ask questions and to seek more feedback after offering some of their comments. And so this, again, builds dialogue between teacher and student. It's not just one-sided, it's engaging them in their learning process. And finally, the fifth dimension is that the feedback is timely. We don't want to always save our best feedback for the end of the assignment. And often we see then that the students just check their grade and discard everything else. So we want to, feedback gets stale really fast. So we want to give our feedback soon after the task or the learning is demonstrated. We want to give it up front. We want to give comments and guidance in a time when our students can still act upon it. So if we're thinking about our feedback being more in the process of learning, throughout the process of learning, and not just waiting for the end and giving a overall critique of, you did this, this is your grade, this is it. So we're looking at this as our students being on a learning journey that they're building, and that we have to be timely in helping them move forward along that path. So this moves us into authentic assessment and what we can do and how we can do it. So I want to just look really quickly at some ways we can do our authentic assessment in just 5 minutes, and then just look briefly at what can be done in 5 days, 5 months, 5 years, etc. So if we're taking 5 minutes for authentic assessment in our classroom, we saw the teacher with the index cards. That was a 5-minute activity that she was able to do there with those students and assess where they were along the way. In 5 minutes, we can probably do any 2 or 3 of these ideas that you see on the screen. We can make sure that the objective that we have is accessible. We can create simple questions that capture the learning target for the day for our students. We can pass out and collect entrance tickets, exit tickets, to get a quick snapshot of their progress and what their needs are to inform our instruction. We can sort through those. We could to tell who is getting it, who's almost there, and those who aren't getting that. And we can use that information to tier our lesson, to organize our students into groups. We can take notes for ourselves using that clipboard strategy, where we could see, who is check, they've got it, check plus, they're advanced in it, check minus, they're approaching it. We can engage in class discussions with random student engagement, where we're calling on our students randomly. Using whiteboards where students can write their response to a question and hold those up. So we can we can evaluate all of those, and then we can also point out the ones that are exemplary for other students to build upon. We can do the famous look over the student's shoulder to see what they're writing. And then we can take notes for ourselves on what we see. or we can have a conference with the student right there. Or we can do think, pair, shares, turn and talks, where we pose a question and the students talk to one another and we listen in to see what their responses are. And with all of these, we can, as good teachers, look in and do more than just what they're showing us by their words, what they're showing us by what they're writing, but we can look at their body cues, their facial expression. We know if we pose a question to a group of students and we see that deer in the headlights look, they're not with us. They're not getting it. That's an assessment. That's a formative assessment that can inform our instruction. We can start over with, going back to yesterday's lesson and building on that. We could see the slumped body posture. We can see the looking around quickly to the other students in the room to see what they're saying, trying to listen in. So within 5 minutes, we can do a quick assessment that is not stressful to our students, that is giving us lots of information. And again, if we're looking at assessment as something to inform our instruction, that's something that we can then take and build upon. So assessments don't have to be long, drawn out things. In 5 days, we can determine what students know, and we could have the facts collected, the data to prove it. We could say, hey, student A knows this, and this is why I know that they know that. Within 5 weeks, we can assess if students are making progress towards mastery. And so we can look at them on that continuing scale, where they were, how they've been growing. And if we see a stall out, we know we have to step in there and do some remediation. But we can see how they're progressing towards that. Within 5 months, we can reflect upon our curriculum, our teaching. We can refine that. We can bring in our peers, our administrators, our curricular coaches to kind of help that. Look, this is what's been going on in my room over the past 5 months. Where are you stalling out? Where do you need to change some things? And how can you build from there? And then within 5 years, you could do a complete realignment of your curriculum and say, okay, this is what has to change now. This is where times have changed, students have changed, my teaching has changed, and you can rebuild. So if you think about this in these 5s, there are lots of things you can do within 5 minutes to get that information. You can then use your data from that information to build on what you can do in 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, and 5 years. So we could keep building and growing as we move forward. I'm going to skip over this one because I want to get you out to your breakout rooms, just because it's so useful to hear from your peers and colleagues. So in that note catcher, and I'll re-put that in the chat again for us, you have this chart. And so what we're going to do is jump out to some breakout rooms just briefly and work on this chart, just to kind of talk about what you're doing. So we're going to look at these 3 different categories that we've been talking about: teacher guidance and feedback, student-centered and learning and engagement, and authentic assessment. So as you get into your rooms, I'll put them in small groups, so you all have time to chat. Just chat a little bit about what you are currently doing in the classroom. As you're doing that, listen into what others are doing. You might want to jot down some ideas in your chart. And then talk about, from those ideas you're hearing from your peers, and from what we've heard today, what might you be able to implement in your classroom? So I'll put you into some breakout rooms here. Let's make them small enough to chat in. All right. So you're going to get an invitation popping up on your screen in a moment, asking you to join a room. If you can just click on that and go and join that room. We'll spend just about 5 to 7 minutes in here, and then I'll bring you back to wrap up. Okay, so you should be seeing your invitation to your breakout room pop up on your screen. You can jump right in there. if you have any problem, just go in the chat or come on off mute and let me know, and we can help get you there. Anyone need help getting to their breakout rooms?
Hey, Maura, I'm back with you again today.
Hey, Jeremy, good to see you again. How are you?
I'm good. I'm sorry. There was a lot of people talking, so I muted, and I was like, oh, I don't know if Maura wanted this, and then I think I muted you, but I was just.
That's
there was
okay.
A couple of people, like when they came on, they were talking. So, but I'm with you, and I'll be here till the end. Yeah, this is
Okay.
I love the videos that you were showing before.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I went a little too long, so I didn't get to show my extra one, but that's okay. It happened.
That's all right.
Yeah. Sometimes I plan as if they're not going to like join in that first activity of chatting. And so then when people start putting things in, I'm like, all right, we're rolling with that. And so, it happens.
No, these guys seem to be pretty engaged today. This is awesome.
They do. I love it when they're engaged. Yes. Yeah. So that's great. Yeah. I just went into the breakout rooms and moved some people around who were in rooms by themselves. Except people didn't join them. So I think everybody's set to have somebody to chat with.
Perfect.
So yeah. Well, thank you for your help.
Of course, glad to do it. I told everybody, I said, I want Maura again. We're in a group.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Looks like Stephanie might need some help here.
Oh. So Stephanie, we'll get you to another one. Okay, Stephanie, you should be invited to another one. Welcome back, those of you returning from your breakout rooms. Just give a moment for everybody to end their conversations and come on back and join us here in the main room. Looks like many are closing. All right, welcome back, everyone. So I hope that time was useful for you in connecting with some of your colleagues in other schools to see what is happening with assessments in their classrooms, and that you can maybe take some of that information and put that to work with your students. So I hope that was helpful for you. So this is where we are today. So we at Self Consulting, we offer 4 different courses on teaching across learning environments. You are over here today in D, the assessment cycle. There is no particular order to these courses. So if you are interested in learning more on this topic, please feel free to join one of our other 3 courses on teaching across learning environments. And there you can also look at that we offer courses in other areas as well. So as I said in the beginning, I want to be very respectful of your time. You're taking an hour out of your Monday afternoon to join us here. So I'm going to bring our time to a close. I am putting in the chat a link to a feedback form. If you could please take some of the a moment or so here, since we are ending a little early, to just fill this out and submit some feedback. I would really appreciate that. You do not have to stay in this Zoom room in order to do that. You can just open that in another link and go about that during your day. So I'd like to thank you for participating today. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for engaging in both in the chat and coming off of mute and talking. It's great to hear what's going on in your classrooms. I hope to see you back here and again for another presentation. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your Monday afternoon. Have a great week.
Thank you.
You're welcome.